What do we say? Welcome back to the Maximum Mileage podcast. Fucking hell, you can tell I haven't done this in a while. Do you know, I was looking earlier, Faye. I was looking.
Yes.
We haven't done a podcast for like a proper podcast. We've got a couple of episodes out, but not a proper proper podcast in just over a year. Literally like 1 year.
Is it really?
Yeah, January the 16th was the last time we did a proper podcast. So yeah, welcome back, folks. We are pulling our finger out of our asses, and we are getting back to doing some podcasts. Quite a lot has happened in the last 2 years. 1 year and 2 weeks, hasn't it, Faye? It's been quite a lot going on.
It's been a busy 12 months. Life is lots.
Yeah, life has been busy. Maximum Mileage has been busy.
Indeed.
We now have not just me and you, but you are now full-time, like proper full-time.
Absolutely, full-time coaching,
which is great. We've got Hannah over in the US. We've got Rachel, who has been a long-time athlete of Maximum Mileage. She's been under me for a long time, like 3+ years. She's now a coach. And we've got Shiv down in London.
Yeah.
Who's joined us. So yeah, it's been a busy old year for Maximum Mileage, which is pretty cool. What else has been going on? You got married?
I got married, yeah.
Tell everybody, because that's amazing news.
Got married in the Lake District in October. Feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, that was lovely. And just making the decision to go full time with coaching after many years of dilly-dallying, doing it but not doing it, and thinking, well, if you don't do it now, when will you? So yeah.
No, fair play to you. It's a big jump to make. You know, you feel like you're kind of safe in the working world, and but actually, are we really safe in?
I think it's an interesting one because I feel like you find this newfound motivation, which can be you can be incredibly motivated in a paid, job. Of course you can, and you work hard, but you've got this different kind of approach to things when you are doing something you truly enjoy doing.
I say it all the time, like I don't feel like I wake up every day and work.
No,
this isn't work to me. I love it. I just love it. You know, people ask me questions.
Yeah.
You know, my athletes are like, messaging me saying, "Oh, sorry, I've got another question." I'm like, "Don't fucking apologize.
Yeah,
I like talking about running."
That's what that's what it's about. I mean, it meaning we can support those that we're coaching. Yeah. Whatever their questions, whatever their queries, whatever their stage in training or, barriers that they've come across, or, you can take the time to find a solution to their problem or their, I don't know. It's just great. It's just great having the headspace and the time to be able to really explore and help people.
Yeah. No, it's been a very exciting year in Maximum Mileage, and I'm going to plug us now. If you are looking for coaching, if you've got stuff going on, we've got people all over the world, ranging from Vancouver to New Zealand and Norway and Brazil, and obviously all over the UK and around Europe and the US and stuff. It's we've got a real community of athletes across the world now, and we've had people do all the majors. We've had every single major marathon we've had people at this year. Most of the big ultras, the Arc of Attrition, we just had people at.
Race that was. My goodness.
Huh?
What a race that was at the weekend.
Oh, I know. Bonkers weather, like proper Arc of Attrition weather. That was.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you are looking for some guidance with your coaching, then drop us a line. Before we go into today's episode, Faye, how's your running year been? That's been pretty good.
Not bad at all. I mean, again, God, the last year. No, I had I'd say in some regards, a quiet year, but I qualified for England Masters for trail, which, as I've talked to lots of people about, it came as a little bit of a surprise because initially when I did the qualifying race in March, I didn't think that I'd qualified. And then I had, which was amazing. And then in September was the actual race. I mean, it's a great experience being part of a kind of national masters team. I've done, and weirdly, having run for Wales in the open age category, as it were, in 2019, it had quite a different feel because the masters events are so, I mean, they're new to trail relatively, but often they are, they're big team events. There's big teams that come out for, across the age groups over 35. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience. The race went as well. Yeah, it went well. I slightly missed out on my target. I can't exactly remember by what, maybe a minute or something. But
still bloody fast.
I was pleased. I was really pleased. And the whole experience was fab. And it was great because it was on a course that I know really well.
You live right by it now, don't you?
Yeah, right by it. So that's lovely and good. So that was great last year, and it worked out well with everything else that was going on last year. It was nice to have a relatively, let's say, shorter kind of race to target. And then enjoy doing shorter stuff. I know I've talked to you quite a lot about this. I'm quite keen to continue to try and improve my speed, particularly over horrible distances like 5 and 10K, but it does pay off in the longer distances as well. And yeah, so this year I'm going back to doing some bigger stuff. I've actually recently just put something in for April. But so I'm doing a 30-mile ultra in April.
Oh, cool. Which one?
Very local. It's the Boehm. It's one of the Pegasus races.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes out of Monmouth, which is great because I can just, roll up to that. And it's on a route that I know quite reasonably well. And then UTS 25 in May and then Lakeland 50 in July. So, yeah.
Nice to see you toe in the line of some ultras next over the next few months.
Yeah, it's been a while, but no, I feel like I want to go back to doing some longer stuff. So
yeah,
that's the plan. What about yourself, Nick?
Yeah, I've had an interesting, I'd say the last 12 months have been a year of two halves. I had a really good first half of the year. I PB'd my half marathon, did 1:16 at Bath, which on a flatter course would have been 1:15. So, I was dead chuffed with that. That was going into London. And really like going into London on a pretty warm day. I'd been pretty good with my heat training and I was in 2:35 shape, which was my target, but it was just, I'd never done London before. I didn't realize like just how busy London was and just couldn't run that fast. So I still ran a PB of 2:50. I just felt like I jogged it. Just goes to show how good shape I was in, really. And then I did my debut 100 miler. I did the South Downs Way 100, which went amazingly well, really well. Like almost couldn't have asked it to go any better, really. Up to just over 100K, I was just like, yeah, I thought this was a 100 miler. I thought they were supposed to be hard. Coached so many people for them. it got tough towards the end of the race, but I was up there mixing it up with some of the top guys, and finished in the top 30 in a very, very, very deep field. So yeah, that was good. And then a few weeks later, I did the Race to the Stones 100K and came third, which was good. So I had an amazing first half of the year, and then the second half of the year hasn't been as good. Mostly just, I don't know. I felt like I think I ultraed myself out a little bit.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I did go to UTMB in Puglia, which in hindsight now was a bad move because it was like 4 days after I'd been on holiday with the family in the US, and it was like 9 time zones difference. I was so jet lagged, so I ended up DNFing. I was just so tired.
Yeah.
And then just not. I don't think I've particularly been as perhaps as healthy as I could and should have been. So I'm, just working on that at the moment. Just trying to.
Do you think that? Do you mean in regards to like lifestyle factors in sense of like sleep and recovery and nutrition?
Sleep and recovery, no issue. It's more food.
Okay.
Than anything. We did go on a few family holidays, and we went to Scotland in the summer, and every time I've ever been to Scotland, I don't think I've ever seen a vegetable. And they like sausages and black pudding and white pudding and haggis and stuff like that. And it's I just don't particularly feel like any time I've ever been to Scotland I've eaten very healthily. So came back from that not great, but you're like, oh, it's fine, it'll come off. And
holiday, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but then we went to the US for a couple of weeks, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're having 3 courses, and there's no vegetables in the US either, seemingly. So, and then it was Christmas. So now, sort of post Christmas, I'm not. And this is really pertinent for the episode that we've got coming up. And in fact, actually, since we've spoken to Tina, who's our guest today on this episode, something really hit home with me. What she was saying about, the way we think about food in terms of like, are you missing out on making memories by saying, oh, no, I don't want to do that thing? And like, we went out for pizza on Friday night, and instead of me going, oh, I'm trying to watch my diet, I was like, do you know what, fuck it, memories with the kids, and we had a lovely night in our local pizza restaurant. So I'm not being silly about it. I'm not dieting. In fact, actually, I've very much taken my mind away from let's lose some weight to let's focus on longevity, well-being, and performing well in my training. And I don't think it's any coincidence that I have a little bit of a niggle at the moment, and I've been trying to diet hard. So anyway, so yeah, the second half of the year didn't go all that well, all that to plan. But to be fair, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Houston, ran the Houston Marathon, and with a niggle, still ran 2:57. So yeah, that's been my running year. And then life-wise, I guess, because I always sort of talk about it and have mentioned it so much. Anybody's ever followed the podcast will know that Alison, my wife, has cancer, but she's doing amazingly. The last 3 scans have gone really well. Like, they're showing shrinkage, and she's doing great. And even, you've been coaching her, haven't you?
Yeah, she's been doing fantastic. And yeah, the fact that, getting a message from her saying that she's loving being in the gym, doing some strength sessions, feeling, strong again, is just so positive and just great to hear.
And even I've noticed some things with her, like we've got a little hot tub in our garden, and 6 months ago, watching her get out of it was, you're like, she's not the most nimble of people, but even she said to herself the other day, getting out of it, she's like, oh, look at me getting out of here now. I'm like jumping out of it. So no, it's been lush to see all that.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the point of why do we do what we do in regards to keeping fit and strong? And I think what it should come back to over everything is that you are fit and well for life, and just being able to move through life feeling that you've got energy, that you feel capable, you feel, strong. And that's all different. That's different for everybody. Strong for one person is going to be different to someone else. But whether that's, moving around without pain or moving around with confidence, because I even down to feeling like you're not going to stumble and fall and hurt yourself, or, like you say, getting out of a hot tub, getting out of the swimming pool, getting up off the floor, all these simple things that sometimes we forget when we are training for events. We get so caught up in the whole running thing that we forget about everything else that surrounds it. So, yeah, I think that's also links into that whole, yes, paying attention to what you eat and, eating well and being as healthy as you can, but remembering also having a night out to have some pizza. Don't miss out on that because of, something that really in the scheme of things is not as important, maybe.
And that's the sort of approach we're taking as a household. So yeah, there we go. Just good to be doing this again. So let's stop blabbing on. We've got Tina Muir, who is a former GB marathoner. She introduces herself, so let's get on with it. Cheers, Faye.
Bye.
On today's podcast, we are back and we have a guest, and I'm delighted to say that we have Tina Muir on. And for those people who don't know who Tina Muir is, who are you?
Well, first I want to say I am not Laura Muir. I'm also not Laura Muir's sister, which people always think when they hear my last name. I've never met Laura. I want to meet Laura someday, because I have heard she also gets the question of like, is Tina your sister? So that's what I want to start with. Just for the like little background question that's going on in people's minds. Who am I? I am a former GB and Northern Ireland athlete that ran for our country in a world championship back then in 2016, and I was very successful in the marathon, half marathon, 10K. Actually, we went to the US for my university and was very successful over here. So I had all these accomplishments. But I would also say one of the other things I'm known for in the sport is quitting right at the peak of my career. Right around that time, I reached a point where my body was broken. Mentally, I was burned out. I quit suddenly and became very vocal about amenorrhea, red S, kind of speaking to underfuelling, which is something I had been consciously but pretending it was unconsciously doing for a long time. And so that's another piece that people often know with the work that I've done. And then most recently, I do a lot of work with races around the world on their sustainability initiatives, because that's always been a huge passion of mine, is environmentally, what can we do as individuals? I always felt that a lot of environmental messaging out there was too aggressive and scary and intense for starting. So my goal is to get people taking action in some way. And so now I kind of blend a version of this together to become essentially a sustainable runner as a human, as a community member, and, as a person on this planet Earth.
Cool. And when you say here, where are you based? Because you're...
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets confusing.
You're a GB in Ireland.
I am English.
So obviously of this country.
Well, I was saying here as in where you are, but I guess I didn't check with you where the majority of your runners are from. But England is always going to be my home. I've lived in the US for 20 years now, and England is still home.
Oh, wow.
So,
You've not
letting it
picked up
go.
the accent at all.
I mean, when I speak to British people, it comes back a bit more. I think if you heard me talk to some Americans, you'd cringe a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of, I feel like I'm like floating in an island in the middle right now. I'm not really fully foot in either country, but yeah, home is always St. Albans.
St. Albans. Okay. All right, cool. And where in the US are you based?
I am in Tennessee, this small town called Chattanooga, which is a very, Tennessee is in the south, but Chattanooga is a very outdoorsy, love rock climbing here, love being outdoors, hiking city. So it's actually a great fit for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, no, we, I mean, in terms of the people we work with, they're all over the world. We've got people in the US, UK, Abu Dhabi, New Zealand, and people.
I've got someone in Norway now.
Norway, yeah, a bit cold up there at the moment. So yeah, no, we've got people everywhere. And then in terms of people listening to the podcast, Apple tells me we've got people in countries I've never even heard of.
Yep. So, I remember that. That's another piece I didn't mention. I did have a podcast for many years, and I remember the same thing. Random places people would be.
I love it. Somebody's listening to me ramble on in wherever. Cool. Okay. Thank you for the intro, Tina. So, as it is that time of year, a lot of us have overindulged over Christmas, but a lot of us have also got marathons and things like that in the spring. And I always say that training for a marathon and trying to be on a diet at the same time are not very compatible. And you touched on, during your career, the whole underfueling thing. I've heard this so many times. One of my good friends, you may know her, Holly Stables, used to be Holly Rush. She was a GB marathoner.
Name's somewhat familiar. I don't think we've ever met.
Yeah, but she used to talk about this, from her career a lot as well. So, kind of applying it to everybody that might be listening, the sort of people that we work with in maximum mileage. It is that time of year where everyone's like, right, I've got to go on a diet. So I thought that'd be a really good topic to talk about, especially given your expertise and experiences. So, so how should we start this off?
I want to start off by my visceral reaction to that word. It's interesting hearing you say in the UK, people are so much more. I feel like in the US, it's a lot more conversations around this are very hidden. In the UK, people very much speak to the way that which is flipped to most things. But I feel like in the UK, it's very much like the language. And that was a little bit jarring for me because I forgot how like vocal people are about losing weight. Whereas here, I feel like it's something people do on their phones late at night is look this up. And so that I just want to I want to start there because I found that interesting that I had a kind of feeling within me of that because it makes my heart hurt because I remember so clearly that feeling of, in my case, or I guess I think, sorry, I'm just taken over here, but running is obviously relative as are our body sizes and what they're meant to be. And so I remember having these thoughts of I've overindulged, particularly me being someone who lived in the US, who went home for England and had all these things that I missed and would be craving. Millionaire shortbreads don't exist in the US, as far as I know. So I would binge on those, or I would binge on, ice, what are they called? Ice fingers. And I loved that kind of stuff. And so I would come home and feel very guilty. I've eaten too much. I ate too much cheese, all these things that I missed at home. However, I would say in doing that, it tends to lean you or push you towards extremes to where you're I have to get rid of it right now. And there's no thought to long term. It is just almost get this out of me as quickly as possible. I hate this discomfort. And so I'm going to put that to you to see what questions come up, because I think I have a very emotional reaction to that, because I remember so clearly the negative, nasty things I would say to myself at times like this.
I think, Tina, I feel what you've just said will sit with a lot of people. I don't want to just say as a woman, I feel where you're coming from, but as a young woman who took part in an awful lot of sport and was always active, my relationship with food and exercise became quite unhealthy quite early on. Not for anybody else but myself, but the relationship that was created through the norm at the time in the like mid-noughties, early noughties, mid-noughties, and also growing up in a country, the UK, where diet culture is seen as almost a badge of honor. And if you are part of one of the clubs, I'm just going to name, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, and now even worse, and I know this is, if you're taking the jab, then, you've joined millions of other people who are also taking the jab to find a fix to a problem that actually requires some time and attention that people are not willing to give it. And we sit in a society now where if it can't be fixed in 5 minutes, then they're not interested. And I think it's a really sad state of affairs that we are part of a culture like that. And just bringing it back to what Nick was saying about people that we work with, I've had 3 conversations in the last 10 days probably with people that I work with, and the first question they want during their catch up is, I need to shift some weight. And I'm like, it's like we have been unintentionally programmed to associate January, New Year, must start again, must rewrite what I've done over this festive period. And now I'm going to essentially punish myself for what I did prior to this time. And everything you just said, Tina, I can completely relate. I feel quite emotionally about it as well. It's that kind of just certain words and the way people talk about things. It's definitely out there and culturally embedded in what we do, and particularly around fitness and running culture as well.
Yes, I very much feel that emotion from you. I feel it myself, and it's there's so many things I could say right now that it's interesting, because I always praise the UK in the way that, over here in the US, people getting like Botox or like changing their face is everywhere and very common, or their lips. For me, I feel less pressured to do so. And I honestly think, as much as they're not my favorite thing in the world, I honestly think growing up watching soaps in England helped, because it showed normal people, right? Like it very much, and like here in the US, all the people on the TV are like the perfect humans that have been manufactured that way. So I feel I grew up in the UK and I didn't have that pressure of like my face must be perfect. And I think that gave me the confidence, along with my mum kind of very much, just being who she was, to not do that. However, yes, in the sense of weight, or you, like an American, you would never really, very rarely hear an American say like, oh, I feel so fat. That is so common in England, or to call someone else, the papers we know are nasty. And so, it's interesting that like you've got these 2 versions of the same thing. Body is very much shamed more than outwardly in the UK. Aesthetics is more in the US. But that said, to your point, Faye, when we're getting, I want to just firstly give people some compassion and love that you are being just hit all day long, especially this time of year, with you need to change, you're not good enough. I want to like rephrase or make a different perspective of that time you just had, where someone might feel like I overdid it, I overindulged. Wasn't that like memories with friends and people who were important to you that you had, that was so special, that when you're on your like deathbed, what are you going to remember? The moments and the people in your life. If you didn't eat, or if you were like, I'm going home because I don't want to be tempted by these foods, you lost those moments. So I want to actually celebrate people for taking time to be with others and connecting. So don't there's no reason to feel guilt. And then the last thing I'll say, and then Nick, I'll let you, rather than just taking over this, is, again, it's relative. So what we see as weight that we are putting on ourselves, others may not even notice, those around you. And so when I would come back from these trips and I would think from England, I would be like, oh, I put on so much weight. But really, it was probably the tiniest amount that no one would ever see except myself. And yet my voice was probably as strong as anyone else listening to this. And the final thing I want to say with that is, when I removed myself from those thoughts, did the work that you talked about there, Faye, not doing the quick fix, my weight was actually only the tiniest bit different to what it was during that time. But the freedom of not having those constant barrage of horrible thoughts, to me, is worth a small amount of body change, where my body settled where it wanted to be. But when you're constantly like flip-flopping back and forth, which is what all these quick fixes do, you drop weight and then you add it back on, more on, and then you drop weight, and it's just this constant, like, you're just having a fight with yourself constantly. So that was a bit of a roundabout, all over the place thing, but those are just some thoughts that come to mind, because I just, as I said, my heart hurts for this conversation, because I know what those nasty thoughts inside can say. And if we can come to ourselves in a gentler way, we're more likely to do it with a long-term viewpoint, to where we actually start to, address our health, should we say, in a way that is long-term and, to use my word, sustainable.
Yeah, you're quite right, though. Yeah, I think it is shifting that mindset to a long-term perspective, and thinking about the us that will be sat here hopefully in 40 years' time, who, and healthy and doing well, because we thought about the long-term picture rather than the quick fix. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you said it yourself, Faye. Like, I don't want to sort of come at this from as a woman. It isn't just women; it's men too. And I will readily put my hand up right now, because I've actually, just today had a really stern word with myself and gone, look, Nick, forget about your weight. Just focus on your longevity and your well-being, and performing. I've got a little bit of a niggle at the moment, and I don't think it's. I don't think it's coincidence that I've got a little bit of a niggle when I've been trying to cut calories whilst I'm training, because I, in inverted commas, think I'm too heavy to run the target times that I want to run. So it's hard, even for some of us who are trying to sort of preach this message.
And I think that's I'm going to say this but Nick, you are currently still incredibly quick, and in your head you think, okay, maybe I'm carrying a little more weight than I should be or could be. I don't know what the right word to use there, but you are still incredibly quick and strong. And for me, that's what the focus should always come back to.
But we're so bad at putting, as human beings, we're so bad at putting these arbitrary numbers on. Like, I put this arbitrary number on of, all right, I want to run a 2:30 marathon. But like, that's not, no one's going to put that on my gravestone. And anybody who's listening, just because you want to run a sub-4 marathon or 100 miles or a 5K under 20 minutes, no one is going to remember you for that. They're just not. And the sooner we can, and like I say, I've had to have this own conversation with myself today that if we can focus more on longevity, being able to look at our kids in the eye and say, I'm doing this because I want to be here as long as I can for you, not because I want to look in the mirror and see some abdominal muscles, which just is crazy. But that's the sort of stuff that goes through our heads, right?
Well, and think about your kid with your kids. That's a good point. And it doesn't have to be, to anyone listening, your kids. It could be a niece or a nephew or a godchild or something that is important in your life. Would you, Nick, want your children to have those thoughts in their head of when you're negative to yourself? Would you want them to hear that in their own heads?
No.
So, like, we want to change
and say
this.
to themselves, "I am a badass motherfucker, and I don't need to think like this." Yeah.
So that's kind of what really shook it up for me, was like, I thought to myself about my daughters thinking about themselves in the way that they did, or, you know, looking at a menu, the lunchtime of the evening being like, oh, what should I eat? So that, like, I wouldn't want them to do that. I would want them to get to a restaurant and be like, oh, what shall I eat?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what sounds good to me. And so I think if someone listening is struggling with the idea of you doing it, think about how you can model a way of being, and think about your child or that child being around you at that restaurant when you arrive and you're like, oh, this all looks so good. Like, then they're going to model that same behavior, versus if you arrive and you don't even look at it and you're like, I'm going to have the, you know, the salad, please. Or not necessarily that salads are bad, but I'll have the kale salad, please.
The green salad, no dressing.
Yes, they're going to think, oh, that's what normal is. So even if you can't do it for yourself, like, think about who around you is absorbing that messaging.
Yeah.
Let's bring this right back into kind of running and training directly. What are the drawbacks of, you know, not eating enough to fuel our running?
Yeah, so I think this can be looked at in a few different ways. There's not one symptom that is a blanket. There is also not one body type, not one size, not one level of training or miles or kilometers per week. There's no speed. This can be anyone, but what it comes down to is, are you eating enough to fuel your training, or are you not eating enough so your body becomes in a bit of a state of panic? And so to protect you, it says, okay, what is less important to me right now for survival? Your body goes into survival mode. What is less important to me that I don't need right now? Now, for most people, what is going to come to mind is a woman losing her period. Yes, that is a great indicator of your body is saying, I can't have a child right now. We're in survival mode. We cannot handle this, so I'm going to shut that down. The same is, women have a period that is the indicator, but the same goes for men. That same system is going to be shut down as well. For me, not having a period for all those years, I was so annoyed at my body. Again, on this inner critic conversation, I was so annoyed at my body. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, other people are running more than me. They're skinnier than me. They're all these things. Now I see that was a huge advantage, that my body was maybe sensitive, but it meant that I had this indicator. However, that's not necessarily the only one. There are multiple others, and not everyone's going to have every symptom, but being cold all the time is a huge one. And I remember myself saying, oh, I have Raynaud's. Like, I have family members who have Raynaud's. So I was like, I have Raynaud's. Now my fingers get cold about average. So I know that was not the case. It was just, again, your body is like, okay, if I need to protect the internal organs, where can I redirect heat? And it's going to take them away from your extremities. So being cold all the time is another example. Shivering also means that you are your body is literally trying to stay warm, and so you're going to build extra hair on your body because it's just trying to find ways to keep the heat in. So you might see, particularly in women, you might see more like arm hair or even some facial hair starts to come through thicker because their bodies are trying to stay warm. And then stomach upsets, GI distress is a very common one because your body is just shutting down that system more than it typically would, because again, it's just trying to keep the calories. But actually the biggest one I want to mention that for me was the factor was, you could say it was not related to fueling, but it was. And that is, for me, the piece that broke me was the insomnia. I couldn't fall asleep at night. I would wake up early in the morning, get hardly any sleep. And when I finally accepted that I needed to take care of my body and get my health back and eat better, the insomnia went away like that, because it was a letting go. And so I think a lot of runners, to your point, Nick, of goals, and you want to do these arbitrary things, we have these like, I got to do this. And if you do it in running, you probably do it in other areas of your life. And you probably want to project that you've got all your parenting under control, or your job is easy and you can do all this. And so I would say the other factor is maybe not insomnia, but are you someone who is high stress all the time and holding yourself to standards that, if you're honest with yourself, are impossible to keep? So for me, that was actually the factor that just made me snap eventually, because I just couldn't keep up with this insane amount of pressure I was putting on myself.
I feel a bit seen, Tina. God.
I think you make a good point though, Tina, around putting on this show of being in control, but actually you're just in a state of kind of fight or flight all the time.
Yeah.
And in every aspect of life, whether that be training, whether that be at home, whether that be at work, and you don't let yourself just stop. And perhaps that's part of the process, because you just continue to keep moving, keep, active. Therefore, it can't catch up with you, and you don't have to address what's going on in some way. It's very easy to literally run away from it rather than address what's right in front of you. When you mentioned about the insomnia, in regards to kind of, I guess, time, what was the time scale to which was there can you remember kind of thinking, oh, it's been X number of years that I felt like this? How long had you been kind of in this, I suppose, state of sort of heightened stress?
Yeah. I mean, I've always not been a great sleeper. I remember being a teenager and having a sleepover with a friend's house, and at 9 a.m. being like, why is everyone still sleeping? I just want to get up. And I had to sit there for 3 hours. But that said, this began to be different. It began to be tossing around for 3 hours to fall asleep, driving myself crazy, and feeling like someone flicked a switch in my brain on at 4 a.m. of got to get up and get stuff done. And so over time that just progressed and continued to get worse. I didn't have a period for 9 years, so that was a long time. But as with everything, it's easy to push it off and say, oh, I'll deal with that when things calm down, or I've been stressed lately, so maybe it's because of that, or it's just my running, I'm not going to be doing this forever, so it's no harm. So it's easy to put things off. And actually, one of the factor I just want to mention that I think is a good indicator, particularly this time of year, is I would not eat much throughout the day, but tell myself it was enough. But in the evening, I would have such an insane sweet tooth where I'd had to eat sugar. And so to tie into what we were talking about earlier, when you live like that and your body's not getting enough, it's going to be desperate for sugar. And when you let it have it, you're not going to be able to stop, right? And so in the evening, I would just binge on 1,500 calories of sugar, everything, because I just was starving myself. And so I bring that up to say that, how did I feel after I would binge sugar every night? Horrible. And so it starts that cycle again. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do better, and I'm going to get up early, and I'm going to get my stuff done, and I'm going to eat really well. And so you just get in this cycle. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I just wanted to add that piece in there.
No. Yeah, absolutely. But also with that, at what point when you were training did you start to go, was there ever a point where you felt you weren't hitting, pace targets or times, or how were you feeling when you were, kind of confronted with a tough session?
Yeah.
When you were
I mean, when it becomes your normal to walk around in low energy, you're like, oh, this is what it's meant to be. And you convince yourself this is how everyone feels. So I can see the difference now versus back then. And, you and I, the three of us were talking off camera about how I've even seen it within ultra training of not having fueling during the runs, and how I feel the bottom fall out of my energy levels. But yeah, when you don't know that feeling of what it feels like to be fueled, or you've forgotten it, then it's hard to see what anything else could be like. So I can't say that I had particularly crashes. I think my body adapted to do, surviving, right? And I was able to mentally override it. I think the only thing I would say with that is that I was fortunate in that I didn't have many injuries. And that's where I think if you are getting injuries, especially femoral, sacral, pelvic stress fractures, that's nutrition. Like you can say to yourself, oh, it's a fluke, or, I fell or whatever, but that is nutrition. And so injuries are another huge indicator. They weren't one that I dealt with. In that sense, it was a negative because I got away with it, quote unquote. So I kept going. But if you are someone who keeps getting injuries, as you mentioned, Nick, it probably is a sign that your body is struggling to recover. And so you have to ask yourself, would I rather be injured, or would I rather look at the long-term approach and take care of my body in a gentle way that gets me to where I want to go?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask a question and it's gone right out of my head. Oh, later when that happens, I'll edit this bit out. Oh, that was it. So before we before we go on to kind of your sustainability, environmental stuff, because I definitely want to touch on that as well. What advice, I think, sort of would you have for somebody who might have recognized that they are underfueling, or a coach perhaps who has somebody that they're coaching that might be underfueling? What sort of advice would you have for somebody right now?
Okay, so I have two parts to this. One, the emotional of it's hitting you in your heart right now. If this is speaking to you, and maybe later on today you'll try and say to yourself, no, I was just like overlooking into that. I was just a bit emotional that morning or whatever. Like you'll look for an excuse. In your gut that this is not how life needs to be. And I will say there is another side. Like, I know this is hard to believe, and I didn't believe people when they would say it to me, but like, I don't think about my meals ahead of time. I am now at a place where I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. What should I eat? And the freedom of that is incredible. And so I will say to people, there is another side to where food can be joyful and life can be joyful, and you probably won't look that different to what you do now. So trust that. And then the second thing is easy. I would say my Running for Real YouTube channel a few years ago, I asked experts these exact questions that people had come to me saying. And next to your question about a coach, there's even a playlist for coaches of, my jeans don't fit anymore. What should I do? I'm panicking. Or, I thought Red S was just for girls. And so it is literally all the questions that people have asked me over the years put into one place where I asked an expert on the topic. There was a psychologist, there was some MD, some doctors, there was some eating disorder specialists. I asked them the questions and all the answers are there. So if this is speaking to you, I would suggest, my Running for Real YouTube page. I made that all there free because I don't, as I've made it clear, I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt. It was horrible. So I would say go over there.
Absolutely. I think giving people the tools to take action in their own way, like you say, even if reaching out for some resources, if they're not in a place where they want to talk to someone about it, but it's that thing where they feel like there's something there for them to look at and understand a little bit more about it, for sure.
And just one other thing on the fueling, actually, like particularly I see this in cycling, the Tour de France, triathlon. It's very much finding its way into ultra trail. Is the opposite. It's the high carb fueling revolution. It's crazy some of the numbers that the top triathletes are putting out, like 200 grams of carbs an hour during racing and stuff, is wild. What are your what's your take on it all?
I would say firstly to be careful what you see Remember, with anyone you look up to, any athlete, any influencer, you never know the full picture. And I can say that confidently, like, you know, there's all these pictures of me from 2016 standing there, hands on hips. Look how confident I am. I feel great. Look how strong I am. But I've already told you in this episode what was going on behind between my ears. And so I would say, I believe they are doing 200 grams an hour. Yeah, I actually do. But you don't know what's going on the other 23 hours or 20 hours a day, where, like, how are they fueling? I would guarantee most of them have some level of weight paranoia, and they are trying to keep their weight down, almost certain, in my opinion. But that said, I do love the push for fueling enough, again, because I've seen, I've tried to run with very little fueling, as not only was I not fueling my life, but I was trying to get by on like 1 gel an hour in a marathon, which is not enough. And so now I have experienced, I did my first 100K in the fall, and I had precision flow gel every 25 minutes for 16 hours. And over like an extremely technical course, and my body felt so good the whole way. And so I do like that there is a push for like fueling. Are we going a bit far? Probably. Is it extreme? Yeah. But I do like that. I'd rather it than the other direction. And ultimately your stomach is going to say when you've had enough, right?
Yeah, exactly. That couldn't be more true, could it, really, in endurance sport? You'll definitely know when you've taken on too much.
That's why I wanted to ask Tina, because I'm very much of the same opinion. Yes, these crazy numbers that people are putting out are crazy, and they are just that. The recommendations are still 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates an hour, and for 99.9% of the population, that is plenty. But it is quite an interesting kind of direction of where we're at now on the fueling side of things versus X number of years ago. Particularly people like me in the sort of age group I am, and a lot of people that we coach and will probably be listening to this. Like, we grew up in the time of the Atkins diet and carbs are bad, and I still have these conversations daily with people that it's okay if you take 2 gels during your speed session that's only an hour long. It's okay, it's good, it's going to fuel you. But we've had this long kind of upbringing where we were told carbs were really bad for you.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to
no, definitely flipping. But again, I would again say that you don't know some of those athletes that are doing that. They still may be not going out to eat with friends because they want to watch what they're eating at dinner. So just keep a pinch of salt with what you learn about athletes.
Absolutely.
Cool. So tell us about your sustainability piece, and I'm going to hide all of these shoes that I've got in the background here.
It's okay. We all have running shoes, right? I actually just wore a new pair of shoes yesterday because mine were definitely in need of it, and I will donate them to be either passed on to someone else if they have life left, or get recycled. We have a lot of programs here in America. I'm assuming you have similar things there. But yes, as I said at the beginning, I very much view it as I want to bring people into the conversation rather than shutting people out. I did grow up in England, so I do see the differences between the US and the UK, and in some ways we're very similar. And I would say we're similar in the consumerism side of things. And unfortunately, I see more and more examples of the UK copying the US in terms of like party favor bags or like little things for Halloween or Easter and stuff that makes me cringe because I'm like,
Halloween
no,
is
you weren't meant to do the same.
Yeah, Halloween's become
huge.
like Christmas here. It's just insane the amount of, and excuse my, but crap that you can buy in the shops for like nominal amounts of money. And don't get started on Shein, like the stuff on there. And it's just like, and Temu, good God, the stuff on there is just insane. Like, you can buy a packet of 100 of something for like £1.
Yeah.
And you just go, but on what planet do you need 100, whatever it is?
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's definitely scary, the direction, and that's where I've got really used to getting uncomfortable. And so I would challenge anyone listening to this to, as uncomfortable as it is, if someone offers you something that's cheap or like got on sale, or like, I got this for you. As much as British people hate this, get used to saying like, oh, that's really kind of you, but no thank you, or like, no thank you, I don't need a plastic bag. Well, actually, no, you can't do that in England anymore, can you?
We have to pay now. Yeah.
You have to pay for them.
So like, I wish America would adopt that widespread, not looking anytime soon, but I would get used to being uncomfortable and saying no thank you, because while it's uncomfortable in the moment, when you say yes to these things that you don't need or want, now it's in your house. And I have this all the time with my kids' stuff. In your house, now you have to deal with it, right? You have to be like, do I recycle this? Do I donate this? Do I put this aside, which we probably all do? Maybe I'll use it. Maybe it'll come up for some reason. And now your house is filled with clutter. Or same with, you mentioned about Halloween. Like, realistically, do I need this? And so I would encourage people to get used to saying no thank you, even if it's you're in a coffee shop and you go there and you say, can I have it in a mug, please? So they default to mug over disposable cup. So get used to that in whatever way that means to you, or bringing a vegetarian dish to a family member and saying, I made this, I thought you might like it. Find ways of getting uncomfortable, because it actually benefits you, because then there's less stuff coming into your house. And the more you take these tiny steps, the more you'll feel empowered to do more of it and inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah. How would you apply it specifically to, sorry, Faye.
No, you carry on.
Just to a running context. So
yeah, I was going to say, what would you, or what do you do, or have you changed in regards? Because remember the days when you started running and people would go, running's great, it's cheap, and all you need is a pair of trainers. And now I feel like we're so far away from that now.
But also the travel. I mean, I will put my hand up and admit I'm not the best with it, because
Nick is the Judith Chalmers.
They call me the Judith Chalmers of running, because 1 minute I'm in Houston, the next minute I'm in Italy. Yeah. I like traveling.
Well, and I think people would look at my travel schedule and say the same thing. I'll get to the travel in a minute, but firstly, you said, do you remember when I started running? When I started running, I was hiding because I was a teenager and running wasn't cool. So I was hiding my running from everyone else. But yes, the biggest thing I tend to say in terms of that is, like, I'm not saying buy the 400-pound shoes, but I'm saying with clothing, don't buy the Temu or the Shein running clothes. Buy, like, or even the supermarkets that are coming to mind, maybe, that make their own clothes. Like, spend your money on fewer pieces that are well made and last, and ideally not made of plastics but made of natural materials. And I know those aren't necessarily great, there aren't necessarily great options out there, but they're coming. Spend money on better quality but fewer things that last. In the UK, we're quite good at air drying our clothes. That's another one I tell people. In the US, it's very much not typical, so that's a big push I have to make over here. And then explore your local races. Like, I am not by any stretch saying do not travel. I said that 100k, I went to Cape Town for that. It was a huge moment for me. It was a post-surgery on my Achilles return to racing. So it was a huge moment, but still, I flew 16 hours in a plane from where I live to Cape Town. So I'm not saying don't do that for your goal races, but also, how can you support your local area races? How can you do local park runs? How can you do events in your area that I'm embarrassed to say I've never run the St. Albans Half Marathon, and I hope sometime I'm home during the period that's going on. But what local races haven't you done? And so I would say explore local, but don't be afraid to book or something. Like, if the New York Marathon has always been your dream, like, I'm not saying don't do that. However, if you do have to take a flight, that doesn't mean like, oh, it's all messed up anyway. What's the point? How can you utilize public transport to get there if you can? Or when you get there, if you have to take a plane, can you take the train to the city? Can you use a bike? Can you eat at plant-based restaurants? Can you, find ways to walk around with friends instead of, driving to them? So I think or even with, selecting restaurants, can you select restaurants that have thoughtful packaging or that use reusables inside their restaurant? Like, how can you make little choices, even if, and especially if you are doing travel to bigger ones? Don't know if that answered the question.
No, for sure. It is interesting that you mentioned the plant-based food thing a couple of times, and I actually put a nice vegan chili on our Monday menu this week, trying to get the family to eat more beans and things like that. And
well, if you need a recipe, I have a really good one.
Always.
Okay.
For good recipes.
It is from a cookbook, so I need to check about how to share that without. I love this cookbook, so maybe I just share this. This cookbook is my favorite in the world. It has so many good recipes, so maybe I should just share that. But she also does have a really good vegan chili that probably could be found.
Okay, cool. Quick plug, and I'll send you a copy. I'll email over. But I do have 2 cookbooks on Amazon. Not vegan, but there is a vegan section in one of them. So
love that. Amazing. Great. See, that is actually. That right there is a beautiful example of exactly that. Like, what do you have the ability to impact? What do you have influence over? You, Nick, clearly have people looking to you for recipes, and you've said, here are some great vegan ones I recommend. So now you've taken out from other people this, I should cook a vegan thing, but what do I want to do? Do I want a curry? Do I want to, that's so stressful. Now you've been like, here you go. Pick from these. So that is actually a really beautiful example of using the platform you have to push environmental things without it being like, be a vegan or you're a horrible human.
Absolutely. And the good thing about Nick's books they are easy recipes. So there's nothing too daunting that makes you go, oh my God, how the hell am I ever going to recreate that?
Yeah. Or uses 27 pots.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the fact that I've got kids and families and stuff, and not having to cook separately from all of them, it's all easy stuff.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. I spent some time working in restaurants.
Love
20 years or so before I became a coach.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'll send it over.
Yeah.
Tina, actually, Faye, have you got anything else?
Well, I just wanted to ask a last question before we finish up, just around how once you kind of, I guess the environmental work is part of it, but when you finished running competitively and kind of, you mentioned about coming back and doing the 100K, how did you find that kind of change in relationship with running, having retired from the elite game, as it were? And I guess it's that question around kind of not a new identity, but how did you kind of reshape you, who had been Tina, who was, the runner, and achieved this marathon time and X, Y, and Z, and then coming back out and going, this is me now.
So there's a few steps in between that. I'm not sure if you two know this or not, but like for anyone listening, that I quit running in 2017. So, we're 9 years out here. I spent many years, I tried to run hard again because that was all I knew. Just motivation was not there. So I did a lot of giving back. I ran as a guide for friends who were visually impaired or had traumatic brain injuries, or around a trail race, Leadville, with my friend who's a double amputee. So I did a lot of, supporting friends. But yeah, now I have this itch to be competitive again. And so I'm very much in it of like, what does this next version of me look like? Can I run competitively without getting sucked down this pressure hole? And so far I feel like I have done a good job. It was obviously I very much understand that I have a level of talent that even if when I wasn't training and I could jump in a 5K and run under 20 minutes, like I know that again, that running is relative. People have to understand that like I am fortunate and talented and gifted in that way, and I have the years of training. However, it is a different game between a 20-minute 5K and trying to be competitive in 100K.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much navigating what does that look like. I do feel like I've managed to keep that identity of like the multifaceted version of myself so far. And in that 100K, chasing other people down was not even remotely motivating for me. That was the real indicator for me of, okay, I've done a little bit of growth here, that I'm not like, I gotta beat you. It was like, I'm gonna do my best, and wherever I fall, not literally fall, wherever I finish, I finish. But yeah, I'm now ramping it up to another level, so we will see as I progress through this. But I think the biggest thing is recognizing that I'm doing my best, whatever that means for that day, that week, that month. And again, like Nick having kids here in the picture, like some weeks it's going to be very little because that's all I can do. And just being at peace with whatever it is, and knowing that like I only have this one life, this one body. So I don't want to spend it kind of stressing about whether I feel like I'm living up to some silly expectation I put in my head. So.
Here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so watch this space, I guess. Yeah. And call me out if I'm starting to be like obsessive again.
Well, in terms of people following along, how do we find you? How do people find you, your services, your and following your journey?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One, I just want to shout out that Red S Running for Real YouTube page. Go there if that early part of the conversation spoke to you. I don't get anything from that. I'm not a YouTuber by any stretch. I just put that there for people to use. Instagram is where I am most active, at TinaMuir88. And then the third thing I would just say is within the sustainable running, we are building up this network of runners who want to essentially say, I'm on Team Planet. And so we are doing fundraising at various races. I actually will be at London this year, fundraising and have someone fundraising for that, for us for that. But many of the majors and other races, you can run in your local races. You can enter to run with us for the big ones. But we would love to have you on our team. So if you go to my website, tinamuir.com, you can find out more information there. And we would love to have you join us in a race sometime soon.
Fab. I'll see you at London.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. Well, that would be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. My favorite.
Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah. Doing it for charity as well. No, thank you, Tina. It's great to have you on.
Thank you very much, Tina.
Yeah, appreciate you both. And thanks for the great conversation. It's an important one.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Mileage Running podcast.
You can find more out about us at maximummileagecoaching.com. If you think you need help with your running and you think that either myself or Faye could be the coach for you, then drop us an inquiry. No obligation whatsoever, and we'll have a chat with you about your running. And there's plenty of resources on the website as well. And don't forget, you can join us on the Maximum Mileage Running Podcast Facebook group. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.